Purchase your piece today. Purchase your piece today. Purchase your piece today. Purchase your piece today.
How's it going? It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank y'all for coming through. A little bit late. Something had happened, so I had to handle some business, but I was going to still do this video no matter what. I think it's a very important video because I keep calling people grifters and people keep asking me and emailing me about who are you talking about, what are you talking about, and what that is. So that way we'll just start off with the definition of what it is. I'll go over what I think grifters are and grifters are not within this actual space itself. Now, a lot of people can actually turn around and say that, well, you're just mad, MOT, because you're not as successful as other guys. And you're quite obviously right when it comes to intangible things. Yes, I'm not a very good bullshitter. You're right. But when it comes to tangible things and actual definite things, yeah, I'm a hell of a lot good at those things because those things matter. And since I don't believe in the cultural nonsense of respecting the dude hustle or anything like that, because when you're talking about respecting the dude hustle, it means that you're quite okay with somebody being taken advantage of or being led astray, just so that way there's a profit being made off of it in ill-gotten gains because you don't have any skill sets yourself. And the lower people are on the actual economic totem pole, the higher that they have this type of dumbass thinking that actually leads them into never actually making it anywhere tangible within life because they have this bad programming kind of running in their head. So let's go to the actual definition, which is the first thing. A grifter is one who grifts, a verb that we define transitively to obtain money illicitly, as in confidence gain, and intransitively to acquire money or property illicitly. A grafter is simply one who grafts, but the word is considered broader meaning as the word grift, with senses ranging from to propagate a plant by grafting to implant living tissue. Oh, okay, all right, that's the actual like skin graft, but it's different. So, since most people within America, period, think that they're some type of capitalist because they're capitalizing off of the bad situation, which isn't what capitalism is. It's a form of disaster capitalism. Like, like grifters are not um, grifters are not people who hang out and just give out bad information. Those people are not grifters per se. I mean, you become a grifter when you have, you know, full well what you're actually doing, and you choose to do it because you have this narrative that you don't want things to move forward. Like in this space, we have a lot of grifters. Like most black conservatives in this place, in black YouTube, are grifters for the most part. They are grifters. Period. They're smart enough to know the difference between what they're doing and what they don't do. And what's the actual outcome of it? So what you have to realize is that most of this stuff can be solved pretty much by getting yourself a verified career field and path. And you have grifters like I don't want to say his name, but the guy who was supposed to, Mr. Johnson, who was supposed to get a school together, and he was grifting off of the pro-black image of using names of personnel, and I wish their family had to stop them from using those names to actually elicit money out of people to like build a school. But he was doing it in such a way that was going to continually allow him to grift off the actual public because he wanted to give this dumbass pro-black education, which had nothing to do with competing with the dominant society, which had nothing to do with anything else. Umar Johnson. That's a grifter. Most religious people are grifters too, especially if they're in like the televangelist thing. They have no interest in Christ. They raise a whole bunch of money, and the money just goes to whatever it goes to. But for the men in this space here, the Black Manosphere, we had a whole bunch of grifters. You know, we had like the first heat of 50-year-old guys claiming that they had all this game and had all this information when it came to women without showing any proof, because bragging about the actual results became more important than demonstrating the actual results itself. So you have to understand that anything that can be asserted without evidence can be maintained without evidence and doesn't need to be proven without evidence. And you know, it's a hustle and a con when most of the people who attach themselves to such concepts hide behind the actual people who wasted all their time learning such concepts with no type of results. Checking for you, I do agree with you. That's a point I'm going to make later on. But I do agree with you. It is very clear that that's the case. But we had like the internet alpha come to the actual internet, right? because there was an actual problem, a realistic problem that was here, that was an unbelievable and unstoppable and magnitude problem of men being raised in certain types of households without male leadership. So they would look for surrogate fathers online to actually help them get in contact with people who they shouldn't even be dealing with within the first place. Like if you were to replace the surrogate online father with the actual father in the actual household, a man who actually is in contact with his son would never send him to another man on how to get women within the environment, especially if the women were not prepared for decent men within the environment. An actual man inside the household would protect their son from going into a bad environment, practicing bad placebo-based things. So what they don't understand is, you think this is red pill information, but it actually fills you with a state of red pill paranoia after a while, where you're listening to all this information with no actually follow through. Because remember, these people don't know what the truth looks like. They're just simply practicing what they think is the truth until they actually get there. Because most of these people are married or in relationships that don't make any sense, but they're teaching you how to get into a system, but they're not teaching you how to get out of a system. Like anybody can drop people off inside of a lion's cage, but not everybody has a plan once you come in contact with the lion itself. Because there isn't a person who have so much game that they're not married to a billionaire. They're not part of an actual family that has the type of connections that would have them not needing to go within the sexual marketplace over and over again. You see, that's the grift right there, in teaching you that being sexually accepted within this environment is something that's good. It's not something that's good. It's something that's bad, because you're going to be wasting the great amount of your time proving that you're a man, and then you're going to be wasting even more time than that trying to maintain an image, which is not masculine at all. Talking about notch counts and how many times you have done dumb things without any type of resolve, that isn't a masculine thing at all. You're supposed to practice things that work. If it was the correct thing that you was practicing within the environment that actually worked, you would be off the field by now. So there's clearly no rationale nor reason to keep going to these things multitudes of times and bragging on it, because you haven't received the consequences yet because of it. Even though becoming to brag on such said circumstances is an actual outcome of dealing with things that are bad within itself. And that's a specific problem here. Now, we all know that the corner store in front of the liquor store has come to the internet. We already know that information laundering and information peddling and destroying the ability to have a conversation is here. We already know that too. But once you start selling products based on the simple fact that you've gotten past this particular problem within America, all you have to do is buy my program. I'm not talking about books, because books are books. People write books on anything. But most people don't come out with actual plans and programs about how to get past certain things. So there's like this female nature bullshit that they came up with. And then they give you all these placebo-based things to get you past, quote unquote, female nature. And none of it really works, because a man isn't supposed to be lowering himself into a system that don't work. Men are supposed to operate off order and structure. Men ain't supposed to learn how to conquer chaos, especially trying to conquer chaos when you don't have any type of verification of the things that you even doing even work at all. And that's what's kind of happened to the red pill. Like, people wanted to find incels to actually sell their product to. They actually want to introduce ill-equipped men to an actual counterpart in society that doesn't respect them, that would eat them alive in a heartbeat. But the actual confidence that they would gain by getting a little bit of a success versus what they had before is kind of the carrot and the stick that kind of kept this thing going forward. Again, there's blacks and there's whites who is doing this on both sides. But you have to realize that you cannot sell a subjective experience. Tom Brady can't sell you a Super Bowl winning experience of a quarterback. He can only tell you about his experiences being in those situations, the things that he thought about and the things that he performed on the field. It doesn't mean because you now know what he thought and what he felt within that moment is going to carry on to your life. Because one, you're never going to be in that situation. Like, I could tell you all the stuff about law enforcement that I've been through and been in and all that type of stuff. It's never going to help you. I can only tell you about my experiences. If you're not in the same field, it's never going to work. And this is why when people ask me about, well, how did you transition from fugitive recovery to IT to transportation? I'm like, dude, you could do all that stuff relatively easily and relatively quickly. Learning about how I fell out of all of those things and got to where I am now is a waste of time. Because the only thing I learned through all three of those career fields in the military before that is I needed to have a very strong mind and a path of thinking and understanding the end to beginning thinking and the beginning to end thinking. So that way I'm not getting coaxed into particular things that I don't understand how it works. This is how people get bullshit level-based educations, by the way, by educational grifters at these schools. You go into a career field that you don't know the ins and out of, you go get a bullshit education, and you expect once you graduate, people are going to be able to reward you for going through a specific type of experience. And that's just not how life works. But if you understood the process, there will be less things to argue about. But see, we don't sell process. We sell products. There's a difference between process and products. Products don't really care about the overall efficacy of what has happened. The process does. Practice process equals specific result. Practice product may give whatever results. This is why people have like these clinical trials and all this kind of stuff when it comes to the actual product's efficacy rate. Because most of this stuff is a placebo, incredibly watered down materials that you think is going to push you into receiving a specific result. But it's when people sell you a specific product to get past something that they're not past themselves. So you got all these people with 700, 800, 900 lay counts, can't really show you a quality person that they've actually settled on. But they're actually using that information to actually bring people, younger men, by the way, into a system that they haven't solved. therefore giving women the hell of a lot more options that they already don't know how to choose from. You can't help a woman nowadays within the environment who has lived a lifestyle of excess thanks to her abuse of choice. This is why men think that the shortcut to women is actually doing things in a format that they actually would benefit from, or supporting dumbass points of view that don't help the male side of the equation at all. In my 5 years in the Manosphere, maybe 6 or 7 at this point, you have to realize that whenever new people come to the Manosphere who are incredibly disingenuous, they come in with the level of disingenuity that has already been surpassed because the space even exists itself. And you can see it right off. You can see it with very older guys. But most of the reason why they wanted to tie the success with women, especially in uncultured environments like this one, is that if you carry this thing along with you so far, it's going to become so normal to you that you're never going to exhibit a level of peace without this thing. Because the only thing you have to do at this point is do it without these people and keep it. Doesn't matter whether you live in rural America and you're making $30-something thousand a year, but you keep all the money. You're not being gaslit repeatedly by non-feminine people and bringing their non-feminine actual circumstances to a brand new dude with no kids. Like, this is why these people want six-figure dudes, so that way they can provide them a lifestyle that they're not worth. This is why I tell people all the time, never trust a woman stuck in a low-wage environment. Those women have the level of self-absorption and the level of self-entitlement that you wouldn't believe. Because the more times that these people frivolously give themselves away, the greater and greater their sense of entitlement becomes. I get it from the man's point of view. The man thinks that he's automatically a better choice, but yeah, you're a better choice for cultured people that is respected for your outcomes that you bring to the table. But an uncultured woman don't give a damn about your honesty and decency and any of those other things. Most pro-blacks have already told you up front about what non-level of quality that these people are. They've done an amazing marketing job. Dick Dud, thanks for the $10 super chat. I understand that. Yeah, it does. And this is why 50-year-olds don't need to be having a conversation with broken women. We need like the younger guys having the conversations with the actual women, like Hammer. He needs to be the one talking to these older women about the things that they want to bring to the table. We don't need 50-year-olds doing this, because the 50-year-olds are smart enough to talk about these specific things, but not deal with these specific type of people. You got to get the people in there having a conversation who's on the front lines of being socialized into picking up the ball in these set of circumstances, to actually have the conversation with the actual people who never had to have the conversation before. You have to understand that most of these women, the counterpart in society, she would have the conversation long enough for a dude to come in and shut down the conversation. That used to be how things used to work. Because they knew if they tied your masculinity to the women's happiness. What's going on, Game Changer? They knew if they tied it to that, you were never going to be happy, because there has to be a run-up period to where people are prepared for what you bring to the table. Other cultures, they protect the hell out of their children. They don't allow their kids to just go in on the open market inside of a dangerous and dumb system that don't respect them at all. No, you don't need a bunch of strikes at the match in a bad system. If it actually worked, you wouldn't need that many chances at doing something that works. And being feminine is pretty easy. Pretty easy. I'm looking at other cultures that work. It's pretty easy. You have to work your way into trying to fit all these options in your life. That's what's hard. And every time you think you're getting away with something, you're only putting yourself further and further behind as the counterpart is. This is why you got so many women that are looking for the caricature of the high value man, but they can't really state what they bring to the table to actually be worth of something that is of high value. Because see, pursuing power and money take discipline. Pursuing these type of people in this environment, it takes a level of non-disciplinedness. Bragging on that you're good at doing this over and over again, dude, that is a level of non-discipline. Yeah, peace to the Aggressive Brothers podcast. So you have to understand that when you don't have a system of masculinity that actually works, there becomes new men that moves up to be the actual leaders in the actual society itself. And those people are not your doctors, lawyers, engineers, blue collar people. They become the people who are picked on everything else but the productive means in society. It becomes based on all these intangible things that has nothing to do with masculinity. How many times have you been on panels where dudes skip to wanting you to cam up or can't even listen or have a conversation or can't even do anything without interrupting? Like all this type of stuff that has nothing to do with solving a problem. Men can easily solve problems. You have a problem, you plan around the problem, then you go to a solution. Rinse and repeat, and you do an after actions report. Because if you haven't mastered that system, and the only thing you know how to do is pretty much capitulate to a very specific thought process, you're never going to make it. This is why the burden to be a grifter is very easy. As long as you provide comfort to people in a society and in an environment, as long as you provide comfort to people who don't know how things work, you're golden. You don't need a track record. Yeah, but once you start talking about track records, results, actual plans, and timelines, and what does the actual results look like to you? Like, dude, like these questions are questions that these people can't even answer. Because in order to get to the power and the money, you got to have a plan. Unless you're a grifter, expecting the entire silence of the group to protect you while you're trying to damage the entire group that you're trying to grift off of. That's why I never believe the actual thing of fake it till you make it or any of that other stuff. It means that somebody around you is going to get consumed at the expense of you becoming a better and greater person yourself, for however long that lasts. This is why they wanted to be the idiot of all trades. It's very easy to be an idiot of all trades, especially when you have unmoderated panels, like I said last night. There's not a single person who's good at women right now who got their money together. Because look at all the people who's catching nails in society right now. Do you think any of these dating coaches could have saved Kanye West's marriage? Do you think any of these dating coaches or relationship consultants could have saved Bill Gates' marriage? Do you think any of these dating coaches or relationship consultants could have saved Dr. Dre's marriage? Do you think any of these dating coaches or relationship consultants could have saved Jeff Bezos' marriage? The answer is no, obviously not. I understand the idea of giving people the confidence to do things like approach people and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But the actual face of these things that are actually happening is not none of that stuff. Because the way masculinity works, and it's a cultural problem, what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve a cultural problem. Because the cultural problem is you're being judged off of the women that you can actually attract temporarily. Not for no long-term benefit, not for no long-term family sake or any of that other stuff. That you can temporarily benefit, that you have to spend all your money to try to maintain while they go off and do whatever. So all the standards was on the male side of the coin. The standards was never there for the woman itself. And in fact, we created a counterculture to actually protect the woman's dysfunction within the actual society because she sexually fed most of the men within society. This is why I don't even bother talking to women about shit. The best, and here's another thing that people don't get. You don't need women allies. You don't need women allies. Right now, the way things are now, you don't need women as allies. The only thing you need for women to do is to go up against these guys who think that they have things figured out. The ones who are actually grifting off the image of like street guys and all that other shit. That's what you need the women to do right now. Expose the fakes and the phonies out here. Have those guys who claim they got all this game shoot their shot at the actual women around here. So that way you can find out that these dudes are no closer to having this stuff figured out than anybody else. That's the women's job here, to protect us from the men who are not even trying to fix this stuff. They're trying to submit to this stuff. Yeah, power and money, like, hold on a second. Let me pull up this email that I was sent by a guy. He think I ignored his email, but I wanted to do his email actually on this specific show. I'm not going to have his name up here, but we're going to go over the email that he sent. Hold on a second. All right. You know who you are. Initial is JS. I was sent this email on Tuesday, May 11th. This is when I was probably in Seattle. Ever since I picked a side, I'm noticing my mood is improved and my stress levels are way down. I'm a libertarian, however. I lean toward progressives. Tangibles and track records are important. There's still a lot for me to learn regarding policy and the political process. Since choosing an actual side, it makes it easier to learn from like-minded people instead of just sitting in the middle and trolling. I do want to thank you. And he brought up Mike V, and the Gone 11, Complex Design, Zero, Lawrence Guy, to help him in shaping his beliefs and being a better understanding of how things work. Side note, if IT does not work for me, I'm considering getting my CDL. It would be nice to actually see and travel the country. Boom. That's how easy it is. Picking a side. That's how easy it is. Getting things under control. Because anybody can sit in the middle and troll all day, man. Anybody can do that. And that's what most of these grifters are actually doing. Most of these grifters are just sitting in the middle and just organizing car crashes. That's all they're doing. They don't want to see any type of progress within the environment itself, because progress is the end of their relevance in society. You have to understand that at this point in time, with these many people who are this far behind, a lot of people need this environment to stay the same a hell of a lot more than people who wanted to change. Because a lot of people leveled up on the skill tree of depending on this situation and be like this forever. So if things abruptly change, they have wasted a lot of time and a lot of experience on something that is no longer viable anymore. This person I can easily talk to about moving on to more cultured, more stable people. That's what culture is supposed to give you. It's supposed to give you a level of stability within the environment itself. You see, you're not going to be able to produce when there's a war going on all the time. You got to have a level of stability within your life. But if you listen to these grifters, they're going to keep continually telling you that there's a war going on. That's the problem here. The problem is that the grifters don't care about your actual success about anything. Because once you have power and money, you don't need the opinion of people who don't have that. And actually, tangibles isn't hard. It's just that if you're trying to share it with the wrong people, which is what the grifters do, they dress up a certain specific end goal as something that you should work towards. And you should bring all this stuff along that isn't going to work to that end goal itself. Now, we all know that this is for the woman's benefit in society. We already know this is about giving her a hell of a lot more options that she already don't know how to deal with. Everybody already knows that. Or people actually realize that once you start to actually bring things to a certain account. The grifters are with the women. The grifters are not with the men. Why would they want productive men? Productive men who understood their value in society don't need unfeminine women, don't need uncultured women, are not trying to scale uncultured female mountain, isn't trying to feed themselves into female nature. How many of these men out here who you think want to create an army of well-adjusted people with the damn truth out here? What's the percentage that you think of? Because information peddling and just trolling runs the day right now. It isn't trying to create a better future for anybody, except for themselves at the expense of the entire group. And then these people have the nerve to try to hide behind things like being pro-black or pro anything. It just doesn't make any sense. Because discipline is its own reward. You don't never know the actual detriment of not having discipline until you face consequences. But see, there's a contingent of people out there who only want you to learn through consequences. Learning through consequences is probably one of the worst ways to do anything. This is why they have signs on things. This is why on the Claymore mine it says point towards enemy. This is why, there's directions. So that way you don't have to follow the detriment of anything to get the baseline of how things work. This is what culture is supposed to do. It's supposed to create a baseline of problems that was surmounted in the previous generation that is currently not happening in this generation. Because I get it. Nobody can handle the results that we're clearly looking at right now. And everybody's pointing fingers at everybody and all yada, yada, yada. But not everybody has had access to infinite choice. No one can truly say that. And that's what people don't get at this specific juncture where we're at right now. Because the only, like after you listen to all the trolling and all the everything else, you're still going to have to leave this stuff alone and move forward. Just wait till you see the consequences, and you're going to see them up close. But see, you don't need to see them, because if you already know up front and in advance that you don't want to go through a specific thing, you don't put yourself in those specific circumstances. This is why people think I'm very disingenuous when I say I don't have these problems. I don't have these problems is because I don't deal with those certain subsegment of people who provide those problems. And I'm not going to get myself into a situation to where I don't know how things work. I don't mind calling in reinforcement to help me figure something out. I'm not trying to benefit from something more than I can understand it. I'm trying to understand it so that way I can benefit from it. And this is what gets people in a lot of trouble with a lot of bad investments. They want to invest in something that they don't know anything about. They want to outsource that to somebody that they don't know. And when it all goes wrong, they want to blame the other person. When the answers are in the process of creation itself. You should understand how things work before you just go hopping off into it. But if we created this type of system culture-wide, it would, like Nagone said, it would lighten the pockets of a lot of people around here, because a lot of people cannot produce. They only can consume. The grifters consume the ignorance in the environment itself. This is why this stuff is a bad idea. It's a bad idea to keep it going on such a level that it's currently on. This is about outcomes. Because after you hear about all this stuff, there's going to have to be some change within you so that way you can preserve who and what you are. Because you're not supposed to be on this marketplace carousel until you're 70 years old. Especially with the consequences mounting, you're never going to be able to get off of this marketplace. You're never going to be able to survive too many of those criticisms. You're never going to be able to survive too many of those people coming back, seeing you doing good, and who's trying to destroy your credibility, and all it takes is mere claims. You're not going to be able to survive that. Especially not with retroactive consent. The retroactive taking away of consent for whatever reason. Because if you were a productive person, you had the money to actually move around. You actually went different places once a month, 120 miles outside of your city. If you traveled twice a year, DR, Florida Keys, Baja, Mexico, somewhere, and you kept on the move and you had a very wide range of how things work everywhere, they don't want that. They want you to deal with this situation in this specific way, using their specific rules to get a very specific outcome that you have not verified that they're even messing with. Nobody has won this contest. If some of the richest people haven't won this contest, most of the grifters are not even playing to even win the contest itself. Now, there's a lot of people hanging out just giving bad information. That's true. There's a lot of people here who just sitting here trolling because they know that they think they're making intelligent people mad, and that's true as well. But at the end of the day, it's still on you to choose what you're going to be able to do with this particular concept. You're never going to lose chasing power and money. You're always going to lose putting her first. And I'm not even talking about the people who got their stuff together. I'm talking about the people who don't. Look at the people with the most open mouths about how they're worth all this stuff, and look at the circumstances they bring to the table that they want to actually benefit from other people's hard work. You have to get this. You have to get this. Just like Zero said on Hammer's channel, don't listen to the older dudes. Dude, you got so much information now. You got more information than I had when I was 19 years old. I was already in Germany. I already know how this stuff works. Plus, I was around people whose life was falling apart on a monthly basis from varying ages. Now the average child has more information that is across the board. They have a track record that is across the board that everybody knows about now. You don't need an army of female allies to see what's wrong here. You don't need an army of Halle Berry shouting down these unfeminine, ugly ass fucking women for you to get this. I would say those women are far dangerous than the actual people who are trying to get off the marketplace itself. Because it lulls you into thinking that having those type of allies is somehow going to make the actual people better. Even if they got rid of abortion tomorrow, that's not going to make the people better who've been living under the fact that they can be able to get rid of those kids whenever they want to. It's not. You have to get people from a better system if you want better outcomes. You don't expect people raised under the worst system to give you the better outcomes. There was a cultural expectation that was not needed to happen around here. Now you look pretty dumb walking into the conversation with all female talking points. You look pretty dumb today doing that. I'm just saying, the grifters who trying to sell you an actual product that they are past these things with no actual proof, dude, that's something. stuff you can't be falling for now. I mean, you can rationalize it as entertainment. Anybody can do that. However, whenever entertainment starts to become private practice, that's when it becomes a problem. And this is why there's really no need to explain this stuff to most people. Like I was watching Charles Faulkner's panel, shout out to him, earlier, and they had this person on who I've seen on Melody's panel. And she couldn't really answer a specific question because it wasn't her need to answer one. Even though we know what she said on the panel, dude, most of these people here, they know, they understand the track record. They understand it. This is why when you invite them to the conversation, they try to play dumb, play stupid, or reset the conversation to like 1980. That is correct. Check it for you. That is also correct. They know the needs of the women more than they know the needs of the men. Telling dudes who barely got their stuff together to run out and go get their stuff together and just give it away to people who don't respect them, that's ridiculous. If a person's father was actually raising their household with them, you think they would give those type of kids that advice? It wouldn't happen. The correct and the proper information need to be practiced only once if the situation and circumstances are right. If the situation and circumstances are wrong, you're going to be practicing the same thing over and over again. Because me, I'm a results-based guy. I care a lot about the process itself. Grifters just trying to run a game on you, man. And they're always around the most inept people, created in the most inept circumstances to try to give them a fake and a bad result. This is why it's vitally important to protect the youth, because there's still a great majority of people who are raised in these type of circumstances that feed them back into this circumstance, but it's nowhere nearly 100% as it was before. What's going on, Snuggles? Again? Yeah. So it's like, you have to realize this. Most people don't care unless it's their actual son or daughter or nephew or somebody that they love. Then they get it right away. Because I've talked to these same people in my family about how they want to benefit off of a broken system. And then I had them talk about their good kid, the one that they, pin all their hopes on, about, okay, so why don't you give your good son to one of these women like you? Would you allow that? Like, oh, no, I would never do that. Of course not. But you want a man dumb enough to take you, but you would never feed your good son into a situation like that. This is why most of these people have a majority of women listen to the actual process itself. The women understand the results that are being given out. They understand the change in power. They understand that a hell of a lot more than men do. You're right, Goshen. Like, this is why sometimes you have to make it so personal to a person that they have to see a level of cognitive dissonance before they actually agree with you. Because there's a lot of people who want to see this stuff go down, but none of these people want to make their son or daughter a sacrifice on this type of table. You got to be able to be focused, man. Being focused right now, dude, there's too many cheaper alternatives to college now. True skills and abilities right now, corporate America needs right now. There's no way you can be able to lose. Man, I wish my grandfather and my father, and like most of my mother, I wish they had this level of opportunity afforded to them 50 years ago. There's no telling where we would be at right now. But now we got this stuff on a silver platter. Doesn't even take that much to get. And now most of the people don't even want to fight for it or even research for it. And that's something that becomes a real problem. Yeah, I guess what you're saying, Chet. But this stuff still is within your ability to change itself. Because you have to look at it like this. They can't get your focus and point it to somewhere that's false unless you give it to them. Unless you already believe in advance that the thing that you're actually looking at is a place where you want to be. The only power that grifters have is being around people who are not really focused on the things that they would need to be focused on. Go around cultured people. Go around cultured people. They don't allow weak men or ineffectual men or men who ain't got no job, skills, career field. Man, they don't allow them anywhere near their kids. Nowhere near them. They don't even allow them around. This is why these people camp out in broken environments, presenting narratives and trying to get people on their side, even though they don't have a tangible result that they're actually leading them to. There's nothing about the Black American experience raised in an uncultured environment that needs to be retaught, retold to anybody. You already got all the answers. You already have all the answers. Grandfather told me before he died, dying on the floor, I spent these last 6 months with you to make sure that you had the answer. You got the answer. Now go out there and make a difference. Because if you don't, you're going to end up just like this. Yeah, it changes you, man. So that is where we are. The grifters absolutely want to tie your success to uncultured women rather than power and money. If these people were off the field on a one-to-one basis, they would have all the accolades in the world. But the reason they just don't have the level of documented proof. What's going on, Grinch? Thanks for the 999 super chat. They don't have the level of not only documented proof, but the actual track record to even be able to be leading anybody anywhere. We know now that they're bragging on the access to an uncle. Dude, it led to nothing. It led to her having more power within the environment that she already couldn't handle. These people need less options, not more options from fresher people that they don't deserve. And yes, whenever there's a problem, you're always going to have people rise up and offer a fake solution. Yeah, King Sigma, I agree with you. Because when you're not invested and the only thing you can do is bomb throw, dude, it's very easy to get by in society and life. The only thing you got to do is not take a side and go after some of the people that you think are actually running stuff. Because everybody wants this hood dude to win still. They do. It's just that these dudes got their place too. It's just that running the actual conversation ain't the shit. You got a lot of professionals in this space and place, man. It's like, why do we keep nominating idiots to actual represent us? No, the KS thing makes sense. At least he's a clean cut dude, but not that dude. All right, man. So I'm gonna drop the link in the chat so that way we can be able to have this conversation. But they wanted to tie your actual viability to that. Now, 5 or 6 years ago, that was nice, that was good, but there ain't no way you can get away with that stuff now, man. There ain't no way you can get it. There ain't no way you can get away with that stuff now. Because most of these dudes who claim that they got all this game and stuff, dude, they're on child support. Most of these dudes who can't leave this counterpart alone, they're on child support. They're going through custody hearings. They're going through a lot of stuff. Hey, King Sigma, turn your camera off, man. All right, there you go. Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's good, bro? I see that you are doing your usual sermon tonight, getting it in.
Yeah, man. I guess. I thought I wasn't gonna be able to do it, but I got back a little bit early. I had somebody else tow that truck up. I make sure that was in the safe spot. Off the road. You go out there, you look at stuff, and like, all right, man, gotta do a lot.
We gotta connect on like a follow up to the Celadon because I've been looking into this Tesla electric semi, and I definitely wanted to have like a longer conversation with you and the fellas about that. But with this whole grifter thing, when I came into this space in 2018, it was probably the way that most people do. They fell into it through the algorithm, backwards. And the thing that stood out to me about this space of black men speaking their own narrative was that it was just regular guys. And I think that if there's something to be learned from this Kwame Brown situation, it's, you got to put your finger up and say, the problem with the it's just entertainment argument is that Hollywood recycles people and it kicks out people on a daily basis. So Kwame Brown blew up overnight. Here's a guy who was a former top draft pick in the NBA, washed out eventually, but he just blew up overnight on social media, especially black social media, to the point where he was doing like a 25,000 live just the other day. No one even thought of who Kwame Brown was a week ago. So I started thinking like, this is that just entertainment focus piece. What's going to happen when the guys that have more reputation than Kwame Brown come on the just entertainment tip, just telling NBA tales, just telling NFL tales, MLB tales of the road year 1 through year 10, the Matt Barnes kind of, formula. You're just opening the pathway for those guys because, again, what made this space so strong was that it was just regular dudes. See, Kwame Brown can't speak for me. Matt Barnes, Charlamagne can't speak for me because I'm a regular guy. But when you have a bunch of regular brothers speaking for themselves and their experiences, that's a comparative advantage. That's something unique. Once you tell them brothers, no, don't speak for yourself. Let the elite man speak for you. Now you just opened up the lane for the Kwame Browns. Kwame Brown is just the beginning. What's gonna happen when washed up R&B singer dudes? Because I was thinking about this shit because my female that I used to fuck with, and she was telling me that she went to this concert like right before COVID dropped, right? And it was like some old R&B singers from, you know, like 2005, 2006 when she was a kid. And they're washed up now, but they're in these washed up R&B singers in their 30s and 40s. And she was talking about how her and her girls got together and they went down to the Chicago, whatever, went to this concert. Now, I didn't ask for too much more because you know how these hoes get out on the road. Yeah. But the point was that here was girls that were teenagers and now they're in their 20s or whatever, and these guys are in their 30s and 40s. They're looking at this social media thing now, these washed up R&B singer kind of dudes, and say, you know what? Shit, I might as well just get on YouTube and social media and get like a little show together. And remember, these guys have a built-in fan base already.
Yeah, right? So like, yeah. Okay, all right, so for example, what you're talking about. Let's say tomorrow that Casey and JoJo, Key Sweat, you know, all of them decide to come to quote unquote the black space of YouTube and be on this hope selling shit like there was on the creating all this simp music that actually destroyed it in the first place.
Exactly.
Like, a little less than like people don't understand that literally can happen.
It's going to happen. It's not can happen. It's going to happen because what you just mentioned, that's what I was trying to get at, is the fact that it was the R&B singer dudes that were willing to be the stepfathers. They had the stepfather music, the baby making music without a ring, quote unquote, right? Yeah. So you got these guys who are like in their 30s and their 40s now, and they're looking at this shit like, dude, these are girls that were 13 to 25 that were listening to these guys. Yes. Now they're 25 to 40. So what happens when a guy like you just said comes in here like a Key Sweat guy has like the Key Sweat hour? Now remember, this guy got thousands of stories on the road, okay? So he throws on the candles and the lights and all this shit that these guys are into, throws on the suit, because you know R&B dudes, that was their whole thing, is like the suit, the soft music. You can't compete with that shit as a regular black man. And I'm using Kwame Brown, even though he's an NBA player, to give an example of. No one was talking about Kwame Brown a week ago, man. He's an overnight sensation, and he's a washed out guy. What's gonna happen when some of these dudes that were actually like NFL superstars and shit, they start their YouTube channels and they start,
Jerry Rice starts his own shit. Joe Montana starts his own podcast. Podcast online.
Yeah, he said Joe Montana, like Herschel Walker and motherfuckers like that. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, dude, listen, this whole mainstream shit is only going to loop back to the people who already got names, not for the people who don't.
Yes, that's what's going on.
That's what I'm just trying to tell people up front. It's like, okay, because like whenever T.O. was talking that crazy stuff about how he was the best wide receiver, and how Jerry Rice was on there like the next podcast, and they'll act like that shit never happened. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that can literally happen here. Those dudes can literally say something, orchestrate an actual conversation, and have a whole bunch of people on, and there'd be 1 million people watching.
You can't compete with that for the simple fact that
you can't.
Okay, look at the Terrell Owens situation, okay? Terrell Owens is a Hall of Fame NFL player. He played, what, 13 years in the NFL, right? Bro, the kind of stories, lines that they have, you as a regular black man that's working a 9-to-5 job, even if you're an entrepreneur, you can't compete with the history of a Terrell Owens.
You can't
compete with the history of some of these NBA players because, again, NBA players, they played 82 games per year up until this year, and they did it for like 10 or 15 years. Do you understand the kind of stories they could have about bitches? Bro, I'm trying to
Bo Jackson. If Bo Jackson were to do, like, dude.
Bo Jackson fucked your mama. Okay, there I said it. Bo Jackson might have slept with your mama, bro. Wilt Chamberlain talks about the fact that he had over 100,000 women. Do you understand what I'm saying? Before we had 33 forms of birth control. That means that Wilt Chamberlain may have fathered 3 generations of NBA players for all we know. So some of you dudes is walking around, you might be the grandson of Wilt Chamberlain. So when these dudes, so if you take the lane of it's just entertainment, you just open up the lane to all these guys that come in and they're about to push you motherfuckers aside the same way a lot of these dudes were trying to get revenge on those same guys from high school. You just opened up a complete lane for those guys because you didn't accept the fact that your comparative and competitive advantage is the fact that you speak as a regular black man. Therefore, only you can speak for yourself. You can't compete with Bo Jackson, bro. You just can't.
Okay, so if Usher were there, or Trick Daddy, or any of these rappers were to come out with an actual, like, dude, you won't be able to compete with those numbers, man. They already got a name. They already got a name.
Yeah, Lil Wayne.
Yes.
If Lil Wayne gets together and he does like a podcast with his history, how are you gonna do? Who the fuck is Kwame Brown, man? He's nobody to the regular person. But now this dude is doing 20,000 to 30,000 people in a live. Yeah, when Lil Wayne and these guys jump on here, what if Drake does a Drake with the ladies? How are you gonna compete with Drake and he does like a Drake and the ladies hour type of thing? So what I'm saying is that the strength, at least when I came into the space, 3 years ago, was that it was regular dudes speaking on regular issues that they face every day as regular black men. But once brothers said, well, we're trying to go mainstream, bro, do you understand that there's 200,000 actors in New York City alone in any given year? Yes. That means that 99% of those with real live connections to Hollywood don't even get work. They're struggling. They're looking at this YouTube and the grift, and they're like, wait. These guys that have no connection to Hollywood, no Hollywood networks are getting money off of this shit. And I'm starving trying to be a Hollywood actor. And I know such and such A-lister. I'm getting in on this grift. That's where we're about to go. Mark my words. By the end of this year, it's going to be clear that Kwame Brown, he was just the first to break through. But we're about to see a long line of motherfuckers doing exactly what he's doing. Actually stealing the format that was built in these spaces by regular black men. Watch.
D-Rock done that for a $4.99 super chat. Here's the thing. Like my girl clicks on some of this stupid shit, and I'm seeing like all these multiple channels of black women, black dudes, black couples who have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I've never even heard of these people. And it's like, how are you going to compare those people to a person who really has a name who come here on this shit? And this is just, dude, if a dude, what happens when smart people come on here? You see how many people Neil deGrasse Tyson gets. Like, what happens when like all the other people who are actually professionals come on here, and people who actually want to hear what they have to say? I'm telling you, this shit is going to get super full of people very quick.
Yeah, it is. Cool. It's coming, bro. And I remember like when I came into space, I used to go on the Reg the Bad Guys channel, and we had conversations about, as this space matured after 2019, that it was going to be like, women, because again, when it comes to grift, no one is better at grifting than females are.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because women got that thing that sells when cotton and corn won't, and just their attention alone is enough to bring a lot of males to the, the watering hole. So what's going to happen? More and more of these broke chicks are going to show up. And again, like I tried to explain to you, I'm telling you the truth. I know a woman that I used to deal with, that this woman is in her late 20s and her friends are all around the same age. And they were so excited to go to this concert of these washed up R&B singers, right? And I was thinking to myself like, damn, they can get 30,000 females to show up in Chicago just for 1 or 2 hours. What could they do if these dudes came online and just started talking all about, because the gossip and the drama shit is what attracts the majority of the audience on social media. So when these dudes figure out, damn, all I gotta do is set up a little YouTube channel like Kwame Brown, because they're looking at Kwame Brown like, I know Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown, he's washed. These dudes are gonna come on here with the little R&B shit, playing like their old records, bringing on bitches, the girls when they're, I had a crush on you when I was 13, and now she's, man, this shit about to get crazy.
I'm telling you. And that's like, dude, this is what happens when you don't protect the integrity of the concept of the regular man having a voice.
Yes. And that's my point right there, is that A lot of guys want to escape the fact that they're just a regular brother. I'm not ashamed that I'm just, a regular, hardworking, efficient brother. I'm not afraid of that. But when you start trying to become, like you said, you mentioned Casey and JoJo and shit like that, you can't compete with the 30-year-old Casey type dude. So like, I don't know who's hot right now in the R&B game, but I know Drake.
Oh, me neither. Yeah.
So I could just say someone like Drake. If Kwame Brown can do 20K live stream live in his car, this motherfucker sitting in the car. I hadn't heard from this dude in probably 7 years. And he was able to do 20 to 25,000 live in the car. That's, to me, now maybe other guys just don't, they're not looking at it, but I'm looking at this shit like, yo, this dude just opened up the floodgates. Because Joe Biden, what was his name? Joe Budden? Joe Budden is a guy who, he only had one hit record from what I can remember at least. But he's doing 1 million views.
I had no idea that he had even a podcast, and somebody brought it up to me. I'm like,
I didn't know he had a podcast either until like the last month or so. So that's what I'm saying. You got Joe Budden and Kwame Brown are evidence that here you got a dude that was in the rap game. Now you got to do the NBA game. What's going to happen? A lot of these dudes that washed out of the NFL in like 4 or 5 years or washed out of the rap game after 1 or 2 hits, they're about to come online because, again, they're selling a lifestyle, an experience. You cannot match.
Hell no, you can't match
experience. You can't, bro. I'm trying to get this clear. This brother's in the chat right now. Some of these R&B dudes that are like 28, 38, fucked your girlfriend that you're married to or your wife. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just being honest because I've talked to young women that tell me about their crushes. Like, I had a bitch that I used to fuck with. She was always telling me how she was attracted to Trey Songz. But she would say it like, I was a fan of Trey Songz when I was in high school. And I'm like, bitch, what you telling me this for, right? But she didn't mean anything by it, but it was just the fact that that's who she had a crush on. So my point is that these females had crushes on these guys. They never had an experience to connect with them. The YouTube and social media, it gets rid of the third wall. It destroys and annihilates the third wall. So that female, Trey Songz, he gets him a little album. He can come out with a little podcast. He can have the females call up. Oh, Trey Songz, I had a crush on you in high school. What the fuck? You can't compete with no shit like that.
No way. No, I'm talking about like if you can literally have Ice Cube with a podcast. You can literally have anybody in Hollywood who got a name, professional studio, producing stuff. And I'm talking about people will show up.
Because they already got the name.
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
And they probably all got little home studios, like you said. So it's a lot of guys out there that would never believe that. So he's like 30 years old. He has a 30-year-old wife. It's hard for him to imagine that his wife would call up while he's at work to listen to like a Ray J talk about hotels from Hollywood or something like that. Yeah. But Big Sean or someone like that. These hoes, I'm telling you, when you talk to them and ask them about like who they liked when they were young, they'll tell you. And here's the difference between 10 years ago, 20 years, and now. One of those dudes that she liked when she was in high school, now she can call up to that guy and tell him, I had a big crush. And now this is all live with 100,000 people listening in. And then he might say to the bitch, I'm throwing a party in Houston this weekend. All my old groupies come through. Man, all y'all wives is out of here. Maybe 1 out of 10 of you dudes' wives won't make it. But a lot of them hoes will be on the next flight to that. And he'll do this shit live on some Girls Gone Wild type stuff. Man, I don't think these guys understand this Kwame Brown shit is way bigger than people know. It's big.
Yeah. It's just that, like, people think mainstream is something that's good. Mainstream isn't anything that's good if your ass ain't organized. It's not good. Not good at all. Not good. I mean, and a lot of people think that, well, I'm willing to get the money at the expense of the betterment of the group of men and the image overall, right? It's like, bro.
It's going to be so funny with all these dudes running around talking about marriage. Like, who was like, when you graduated from high school, who was like the top R&B dude?
Actually, shit, I graduated in 96. So, You know, you had like
So you was like, yeah, that's why you said Casey and JoJo. So you talking
Casey and JoJo, yeah.
So Danny Boy and all them. So Danny Boy, that nigga's probably like 50 years old right now. He come online and he's gonna bring in all the Soul Train 96 winners and shit, talking about, you know, like the pimp tales from the 90s or whatever, and then all these hoes that graduated from high school and college and now he's gonna be calling up, and it's gonna be some dude in this space that's gonna come crying to MOT's channel talking about my wife was on Casey and JoJo, talking about how much she loved Casey and JoJo now. I mean, it's gonna happen. Watch.
Yeah, I mean, but just think about like way older R&B motherfuckers that people think it is dead, and when people just have a live stream itself, and it's like, okay, the Isley Brothers, or
He said that.
yeah, they can literally come out with I'm telling you, be on here for an hour. Be on here for an hour, tons of super chats and shit, and they just do their old music and shit.
And you know Robert Isley is a certified thug. Now he did like 3 years for tax evasion recently, bro. So you got the R&B thug thing that Robert Isley, now we talking like grandmother's game. So you got Robert Isley and shit, and he get on YouTube telling war stories, and then he does like a whole series just about what it was like to go from tax evasion to prison. Now he's the redeemed thug, you know, the redeemed thug that you were talking about earlier. He has the perfect story. Mr. Good Guy, R&B singing guy, stealing your grandmama's panties, goes to prison after his career, does like 3 years in the pen. So he got the thug story now. Now he has the redemption story. Man, these guys don't get it, man. Like, this shit is about to get real. Kwame Brown was an eye-opener for me, because I was like, that name, Kwame Brown, and I'm just looking up, and this dude is all over the YouTube algorithm. He's on ESPN, Fox News. Everybody's talking about him, and this dude is doing a fucking live in his 2006 Escalade or some shit.
Yeah,
25,000 people just paid for his new Escalade in 1 hour. 1 hour.
but this is where we at when you got people this fucking stupid who don't want to give a shit about the process or moving forward. They want to just keep crowning idiots. They want to keep crowning idiots and throwing them in the street, man, rather than being with legitimate motherfuckers. And it's like the people who are actually focused on the shit that they need to be focused on, man, they don't want these people around, man. They don't. I guarantee you guys school and shit, man, there ain't no way you want this type of person around you.
See, I you know, it took me a while to really understand it, you know, because like the last week I've been doing research on places I'm going to be traveling over the next year. And I came to kind of a conclusion just when it comes to like this black majority thing, man. And it's like you, I, and others, we're the minorities, you know. And I mean, I used to think maybe it was like 20%, but
No,
guys that think like us is like much lower.
5%.
Like, yeah,
5% is the best. 1% is ready to go now, up to 5%.
Yeah, it's much lower than I originally thought. So for me, it's like, you know, I say, hey, let them have it, bro. Because I used to think that they actually wanted to destroy the plantation and rebuild. I don't think so. I think that what it is, brothers that was in a position in that plantation environment that weren't happy with it, they're trying to see if they can somehow change the dynamic where they get a better position. But what they don't understand is that every model that I've heard these brothers bring up is a model that I just explained can be easily used by someone that already has a better position. Because again, you call it the grift, right?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of dudes out there that is broke as fuck that was famous at a certain point in their 20s. Yes. And they're like, you know, they were 25, they had like a one-hit record. Now they're 45 and they out here hurting. You know, I was reading about Vin Baker, used to play for the Bucks. He was like one of the highest paid NBA players, and this dude driving like an Uber, right? So what happens when
Jose Canseco was driving the goddamn Uber? I forgot who said that shit in the chat.
Who's that?
Jose Canseco.
Yeah, Jose Canseco. This dude was big time. Now, think about Vin Baker, right? So Vin Baker, Jose Canseco. Now, Kwame Brown just showed that you could sit up in your car and tell old tales in the NBA or relationships that you had or beefs that you had, and you can get a big amount of people watching and super chatting. Now, what happens when guys that were like all-star level players from the 90s and the early 2000s, like Allen Iverson, for example. He was my favorite player.
Oh man, if Allen Iverson were to come out with an actual podcast, that would be the perfect person to do it.
He's the perfect person. I'm gonna tell you.
Oh man, it would be.
Allen Iverson was my favorite NBA player because we were about the same height, and I met Iverson in person before, and I thought he was like 6'3", because I'm 5'10", and he was like more like 5'11", and he was skinnier.
No. Now he's under 6 feet. I met him like 4 or 5 times when he was actually there in Denver.
Yeah, he ain't a big dude. Don't let
him on the court and do all types of crazy ass shit in the hood.
Yeah. He got a great story because when you look at AI's story, first off, he has the racism angle so he could play the pro-black card. Because remember when they tried to destroy his career, the white supremacists in Virginia? They tried to destroy his career out of high school. So John Thompson took him on at Georgetown. He was always the underdog. He was drafted, number 1, but no one thought he would go number 1. No one thought he would last in the league more than 3 years. He was always like the I'm going to keep it real guy. I remember him telling a story on ESPN once where he talked about an incident with him and Stephon Marbury and Puffy. And he was talking about how Stephon Marbury was kind of like, surprised, by the fame and the glamour. And he was just in awe of Puffy and all these guys. And Puffy tried to punk Stephon Marbury, because Stephon had like took a drink of his Cristal or some shit. And then AI said he checked Puffy, telling him not to talk to Stephon like that because he was like a rookie or a second-year player, something like that. But what I'm saying is that these dudes have thousands of story like this that they can just bring on old heads like themselves and talk about. So I just think that guys are not looking at this because everyone talks about the mainstream. Fuck, the mainstream is trying to be where we're all at right now. They're trying to integrate into this streaming, getting rid of the middleman format, and they want to take control of it. So what they're doing, they're going to bring in the people that have been begging to get back into Hollywood, begging to get back connected to corporate America, and they're going to start giving them the money and the support because it's so cheap to build their platforms here in the grassroots social media. And you're going to have like a hell of a giant to conquer now.
Okay, I mean, like, could you imagine if like Nelly or Ludacris, Outkast, Eminem would have a podcast?
Yeah, oh,
like,
man.
Yeah. It's like
if Eminem did like a podcast called The 8 Mile, he could call it like Tales from the 8 Mile or some shit. Do you understand? I mean, because think about that story of his homeboy who got killed in the game. That was one of his best friends, the guy that got murdered a couple years ago. That was a rapper. You got talking about hundreds and hundreds of stories and a network of other celebrities that's infinite damn near. So that's why, to me, I feel like Black everyday brothers should have just stuck to the fact that, hey, we're everyday brothers speaking from that perspective. This is my experiences. This is what I think. But once you start to strive to be that mainstream guy, now you just opened yourself up. And it's gonna happen, bro. It's coming. And a year from now, everyone's gonna be sitting around looking really dumb because I'm telling you, dude, your girlfriend right now, if you sit down and ask her if she was born here in America and raised in America, who are your favorite rappers growing up? Who are your favorite R&B singers? Just get a list of them. And then ask yourself, okay, if such and such person started a podcast today, how would they do? Because again, women are the ones that spend more money than the men. Women spend more money. So what's going to happen when one of these R&B dudes does the podcast and then they start talking about all the behind the scenes? You know, that behind the scenes thing is what a lot of these people love. Like, my baby mama, I had 5 baby mamas and, they did this to me, or I had beef with this other R&B guy. You guys never heard the story of the hair dryer and the R&B.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, man. Like the Grifters are going to be actually just outpaced by dudes who are actually legitimate with legitimate stories, man.
You can't compete with that shit because, again,
you can't compete with it. You won't be able to.
The grift is a fake it till you make it. So when you put the fake it till you make it mentality guy next to the millions of people know this guy and bought his records and wanted to be him guy, because again, there's an old formula in Hollywood. It's never changed. This is the formula. Hollywood wants men that women want to fuck and men want to be, and women want to be and men want to fuck. That's always been the formula in Hollywood. It's never changed.
Yeah,
So
but
when,
here's the other thing. Like, here's the other thing. What do you think happens online when you got dating coaches and then you got celebrities who can go out and get real women on fucking camera?
it's over. It's
That's what I'm saying. It's like, bro, you don't like. All right. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you can't compete with no shit like
Wait,
that.
compete with some shit like that.
Okay, here's a good example. Now, R. Kelly is still going through the court system, right?
Yeah.
What happens if R. Kelly beats his case next year?
Oh, that dude coming out with a podcast. Oh.
And he names his podcast Finally Out the Belly of the Beast or some shit like that, right? And he starts telling the truth because now he doesn't have to worry about double jeopardy. What if R. Kelly was to come out and now he's like, now I don't have to worry about double jeopardy, and he starts spilling the real beans on not just the accusations against him about the parents of those women. That's just one layer. Now the next layer, how I fucked your current wife, and then how I was beefing with Jason. Dude, this shit is crazy, man. These guys are really underestimating the power of this new technology and how they actually were ahead of the curve. All of us, we're ahead of the curve in terms of these conversations online. These Hollywood dudes, they were chasing after the old standard, and now they're starting to see, like, you got rappers that are 10 times platinum looking at someone like Joe Budden. They're like, wait. Joe Budden is doing 1 million views? I could do better. I got a 10 times audience of him.
He do a million views in an hour podcast that he couldn't do in album sales and shit. So it's like, all right, imagine if Kobe Bryant didn't die and Kobe Bryant decided to come out with a fucking podcast.
You talking international, and you know he was big in China too.
Yes, dude. Listen, man, we're talking about billion fucking view video.
They'll break the internet. They could possibly
600 million view.
Yeah, they might break the internet. Because you look at a guy like Joe Rogan, right? Who the fuck knew who Joe Rogan was 5 years? I didn't know who he was. I never heard this guy's name until like the last 2 years. So if Joe Rogan can do it, what happens when Chris Rock, who noticed
That's what I'm saying, the Chris Rock podcast.
Yeah, because Chris Rock been complaining a lot in the news about the cancel culture and woke culture. He was on the news recently because he was saying that like cancel culture and woke culture is destroying comedy. So what happens if Dave Chappelle and Chris Tucker and Cat Williams get together and say, we're going to do a podcast for like 6 months together, once or twice a week? See what I'm saying?
I'm talking about with a production crew and all this other shit. Like, dude, people can write great shit for these people to actually, like, the stuff that we're doing with a lot of production value behind it, we could turn this shit into a documentary. This is why I took most of my shit down, by the way. But it's like, these people with names are going to come in this motherfucker and take this shit from the normal people, man.
It's coming. It always does. Because, again, when you strive to be one of those people, you open it up to that. Whereas, again, my whole position has always been everyday black men, regular black men speaking for themselves. That's always been what I thought this space was about. But now, 2021 came along.
Podcast, could you imagine that shit?
Man. And he can start his. Okay, someone just brought up Magic Johnson. We can write a show right now. Magic Johnson on the Magic Hour. First guest, fellow HIV carrier Billy Porter, because that's the big storyline before this weekend. Was Billy Porter admitted that he's been HIV positive for 14 years. Magic Johnson starts.
14 years?
Yeah, man, he was a disease carrier, man, for 14 years, spreading that shit. He just admitted this shit on like TV recently this week. So let's look at Magic Johnson's podcast starting next Friday, the Magic Johnson Hour.
Yeah.
The first guest he has on is another guy with HIV who's had it for 14 years, spreading that shit all around the world for the last 14 years. That's his first guest. What you think the kind of numbers he could do? If Kwame Brown can do 20K live, Magic Johnson, that with Billy Porter and the HIV conversation, they could probably do 250,000 live or some shit like that.
And this is just word of mouth of the algorithm type shit. If these motherfuckers would be putting up billboards all over the place and like having advertising on TV in all types of different markets, dude, there ain't no telling how many people who would actually show up to this shit. So it's like, look, yeah, this algorithm is one motherfucking thing. All right, so just look at the people who show up to like Tariq Nasheed or Jason Black type shit.
Yeah.
And think about people who actually got fucking tangibles in an actual career field and shit that's doing shit who can market to people because they got a name that's far bigger than theirs and what their numbers would actually be.
I've already thought about it because again,
Yeah.
it didn't really hit me until I saw that Kwame Brown, because I was like, I was trying to figure out why this dude showed up in the algorithm. Like, what is this Kwame Brown? Then I started hearing brothers on this space talking about him. Like, oh, okay, so this is what's going on.
No. Dumb niggas was talking about Kwame Brown because he didn't take a side. He doesn't have a point. He's just on this troll shit and he's just going after motherfuckers and all this kind of other shit. Dude, it's easy to go after the targets that he's going after because the way that he argued his point is they can't fight with him like that he can fight with them. If people want to see that type of shit.
Yeah.
So it's like
for that, bro. I didn't understand it, but like the average American, I could see a time really, really soon where we go back to like gladiator games, bro. Like I think that the American mind is so stunted right now.
Yeah, it is.
I think that we could literally, if someone had the nuts to do it, go to like real live fight to the death gladiatorial games on MTV and YouTube, and motherfuckers will pay to see that shit. And not no one say anything about killing them. Like, you know how they used to do duels and shit back in the day?
Yeah.
If we started doing like, I guarantee you, bro, if right now you and I got together with Don King and we say, you know, we're gonna get a contract with the US government and the state governments that allows us to do duels. And then there also be a contract to do Coliseum type games where to the death. Motherfuckers is so thirsty to be entertained and shut their brain off and escape.
I'm telling you, man, like, dude, it'd be like some real life Japanese live blade shit, man.
We can really bring this shit back, bro. I think that like with all these rappers beefing, like we can literally set up duels with Don King and organize this shit with Bob Arum and all them, where we could have live television motherfuckers like literally taking their beef to the killing yards, where you have like a such and such rapper who had a beef with such and such rapper. We're gonna duel to the death, and the winner, the survivor, gets $1 million. We're at that point in America right now where people, they don't want to think logically. They want to be entertained 24/7 and to escape their boredom, and that's just where we're at, man.
Could you imagine if old dirty bastard never fucking died? What the fuck he would be able to do with this space?
Oh man, the stories he could tell.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
The stories, man, you know, because he's like one of those eccentric type dudes.
That's what I'm saying, man. Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna get there, and it's gonna be sad because the brothers that are the everyday guys, their conversations, because again, YouTube already has all the power. Brothers always talking about like the black space. Bro, there's no such thing as the black space. All there is the YouTube algorithm in 2021. If YouTube wants to shut your shit down, there's nothing you can do. They shut mostly all of us down at this point.
Like, you put a plug in the algorithm. And like, you put this shit in your name. It's kind of like how you're seeing it now. Like, I'm not sure if people noticed it, but like most people outside of the Black Manosphere is getting all the views from Kevin Samuels videos, but not motherfuckers who are actually in the Manosphere outside of like mediocre tutorial and reviews. I'm not sure if people understand how that shit works. Like, put a hit out on these motherfuckers.
I don't think they understand it because they don't create content. Like, I didn't understand when I was just in the audience, but like once I actually ever uploaded a video, then I started to get the data from YouTube, and then you start to understand how the algorithm works. So yeah, I mean, they wouldn't understand because they're just like, you know, they're like the Romans citizens who, you know, when the Caesars used to do the little up sign, the thumb sign, thumbs up, thumbs down. That's basically what the YouTube and the social media audience is. I didn't believe it at first, but I know that shit is 100% facts right now, bro. Like, if they found out that you and I were going to meet up to kill each other, you understand that you would probably get like 100,000 live views if we did like a whole series of like the build up. Like, I'm beefing with MOT. And then MOT came on here and was like, man, King, I'm going to cut your motherfucking neck off. And I was like, I'm going to put 8 bullet holes in you. And then we were like, I'm booking a flight next week on June 1st and did like a countdown. Man, these motherfuckers with thousands and thousands of people ain't never heard of our names, heard of space, would be like, did y'all hear about them two niggas that's about to meet up and they had beef on YouTube and one said he's gonna put 8 bullets in him, the other one said he's gonna put his ass to the guillotine. They will show up for that shit. And I know that for a fact now. I didn't know it before, but I know it for a fact now. They will show up for that, bro.
And like King said, along with that, what people don't understand is with the whole concept of this podcast, there are people with no results selling lifestyle shit to people. What happens when you got people who are NBA stars bringing on models onto a boat and shit? How you gonna be able to compete with that?
Man, you can't compete with shit like that.
Wow.
Man, I grew up listening to Melissa Ford and them talk about their life and shit as hoes in the game. And what happens when you have like the Melissa Fords, all these like, 2005, 2006 IG models telling their story about how I had a kid with such and such NFL player, R&B.
Oh, man.
Because the women are the ones that eat the shit up the most. Men follow behind, but women eat that shit up. So you got the guys that you're talking about who can just call up any supermodel right now, get them online, have a conversation about relationships and the dynamics between black men and black women. But they take it to another level because instead of just general black men and black women, they can talk about it from the standpoint black men, black women in the entertainment game, in the mainstream game, and what it's like. You can't match that at all because you're not in that pool. So when they do it, all you can do is be a spectator, and it's coming, bro. Bro, you call it the grift, and that's a good name for it because again, these guys don't understand yet how much money they can make off of super chat. Once these washed out former Hollywood people realize, Kwame Brown made how much in an hour? See, YouTube is the OnlyFans for non-sex. Think about it like that. Like
it is.
It's the OnlyFans that doesn't require sex at all. Nothing. All it requires is a good story and a good storyteller. That's it. That's it. So OnlyFans is about the sexuality, but the online shit outside of OnlyFans is really about a good story and a good storyteller. And I'm telling you, ain't no way in hell you can match Puffy in terms of storytelling because this nigga has been around for like 30 years on all the good and bad and the ugly of the game. If Puffy can bring on hundreds and hundreds of guests telling all kinds of stories for the next 10 years, you can't compete with that shit as a regular black man. Just can't.
Simmons, Master P, dude, like I bet you they could probably get a Suge Knight podcast going.
From prison. Because they be doing interviews.
Guarantee you don't see that shit.
They do interviews in prison all the time. It's all about money, bro. Let's be honest. It's all about money. So, like, you want to do a Suge Knight podcast on YouTube. YouTube, big wigs, sit down with the prison attorneys. Hey, we'll donate $1 million to the pardons
free or
whatever. Some shit. Yeah, some shit like that. Give us 10 uploads with Suge Knight, 45 minutes over the course of 3 weeks or 6 weeks. They're going to do it because, again, America has become like a cesspool and such a decadent society now that it's all about money now. Money and popularity. Those are the rules now. And you should be an honest person about that, is that America has become a country that has no mission statement, no moral integrity. It's about two things.
No
money,
national plan at all.
Nothing.
Nothing.
America is about money and popularity now. There is no church influence anymore. There is no government moral influence. It's about get the money and get the popularity. And that's the new ruling class now. There is no middle class in America now. The middle class in America is being destroyed by inflation, corruption, all types of shit, global wars. Even when you look at like the cryptocurrency market, and then you compare that to the inflation that's happening in 2021, the people that suffer, it's not the 10%, it's the other 90%. They're the ones that are suffering, and that's going to pay the price of this hyperinflation that's coming over the next 5 years. So again, America boils down to money and fame. And so you're not going to be able to compete with the former washouts from So Def or Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's like, bro, listen. You're not gonna be able to compete with like you name it. Usher. Usher has a podcast. It's well maintained and all that shit. And that's just no dude. What about the dude from country music come out here and do this shit? Sigma Jones. And it's like that's country music, right? You go on the road with them and all that type of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Juicy J. That's what I'm saying, Lone Wolf. It's like A-Ball and MJG had their own podcast where they're just talking about their life every Friday and shit once a week. And that's how they like, dude, listen, man, you don't even need to be selling yourself to an actual the Tom Brady podcast. What the
That's probably what, because see, again, like I said, you already kind of see these washed up musicians and actors creeping into the reality show game on TV, but there's a middleman. It's only now in 2021 that a lot of these dudes are starting to wake up like, wait, why would I go through a little hat in Hollywood and get 10% when I can go straight and kick out the middleman, give up 30% to YouTube and keep 70% for myself and control my time frame? I could just upload once a week, once a month. The audience,
correct. I mean, they could be on some Tommy Sotomayor shit.
Yeah.
When they got their own website, they own OnlyFans, they own all that shit. So all the money comes to them. There literally is not no middleman at the fuck all. Period.
The only middleman is YouTube, and they only asking for 30% as of now. That's it. And that's only with the super chat. Yeah.
A 30% of free money versus a subscription-based shit on your own site where people can actually show up at. Like that's where this shit.
It's coming, bro. It's coming. And again, we've already seen that the females, you got a lot of dudes that grew up, looking up to certain rappers and the women that they was rolling with. And I'm telling you, don't be shook if like one of these video vixen type females that was big just 10 years ago, like maybe she was 21 and now she's in her early 30s, got a kid or two by a rapper, and she just decides, it's time to cam up and mic up. And that's when the shit is going to come, because again, we've already seen that a female can show up in this space on YouTube, whatever. They don't have to show their face, receipts, anything, and they can get a big ass following. So what happens when Melissa Ford, who she's narcissistic as hell, and she knows she's hot, when she shows up and she starts the Superhead story. Remember Superhead?
Yeah. Oh, the Superhead podcast? Oh,
man. Oh. And see, Superhead was too ahead of the game, because again, when she wrote those books, that was when people actually read books. Now people don't read books. Imagine if like the young Superhead shows up this year, looks better than Superhead, more sophisticated than Superhead, but she's 23 years old. Yeah. But she got all the same stories that Superhead had about your favorite athletes and shit.
All right, let me address this comment in the chat, man. Listen, if you was in Denver, Shannon Sharp don't fuck with niggas at all, period. So it's highly crazy that this dude is doing a show called the fucking Shay Shay Room and shit. I'm like, this dude would never he never talked to those type of people. He literally told motherfuckers that he don't fuck with y'all like that. Don't try to get my autograph, nothing. I want to talk to y'all. No reason.
He's a grifter, though.
He is now, but he wasn't that dude when he was in the NFL. And it's like, fuck. And it's like,
like I said, bro, like it's a lot of money in playing the plantation. When you play the plantation politics game correctly, you can eat forever. And a good example, like you said, with Shannon Sharp, here's a guy who he didn't fuck with that hood stuff or black people
at all.
But when
he never would even talk to Ice Cube if he was in the fucking league like that.
No,
he never would in public. That was very clear about keeping straight.
ESPN didn't used to talk about like cop killings of black people and all that shit. It was in 2018, 2019, 2020. So it was kind of a trend and a wave over the last 4 or 5 years because Trump was in office. But now what's going to happen? They're slowly, by the time like next year and NFL season comes around, NBA, they ain't going to be talking about all this woke and Black Lives Matters. Shannon Sharp will go back to doing what he was doing before. But again, that's what I was saying, is that You can't be a master grifter like these Hollywood people. They are the master of
Man,
fake make it, man.
dude, like, listen, man, like they made like Inception and shit. You gonna fucking be able to compete with people who made a movie like that? Come on, bro.
Nah,
No
you can't
way.
compete with shit like that. You can't, because again, that was their whole. That's how they built their careers off the casting couch, fake it till you make it, having no moral center. That's been the whole Hollywood game in the last 80 years. And now with YouTube and this shit, these people be like, wait, I don't gotta do the casting couch right now.
Listen, man, man, I seen this shit in person, bro. Like it's one thing to hear stories of. It's another thing to see this shit happen in person. And now that I see how these people could have caused a problem, I don't blame them for the shit now. I used to,
No.
kind of not like that shit, but now the level that I'm at right now and how easy that somebody could really fuck your shit up with just accusations. Yeah. Yes, I totally agree.
Man, Deshaun Watson is a perfect example.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh man. Here's a guy who just signed a new contract. I don't even think he hit 26 years old yet. He was at the top, about to go into the last, year of a bad contract into the first year of a good contract. And look at how just in 10 seconds they destroyed this man's career, where he's fighting 22 civil cases, an open criminal case that could lead to how many charges, who knows? But that's part of the mainstream game. Like, everyone thinks like you're going to go into the mainstream and you're going to take whatever format you had here and go there. No, that shit don't work like that. They're going to say, hey, you got an audience. This is what we're going to have you do. And we're going to give you.
Oh man, like look,
shit works.
Look, like, listen, man, if you got all these other mobsters having fucking podcasts, could you imagine that motherfucker having a podcast?
I can imagine. It makes sense to me, dude. Like I said, when last time I was on here, you and I talked about the drug game and how like the drug game is all controlled by the government and they're all snitches, right? So now Nagone just said that Sammy the Bull got a podcast. This is what I'm saying. Anyone now with a story is the new Hollywood, because that's what people gravitate. People are living very, very alienated lives in 2021. The data shows it. People are more marginalized than ever, and their lives suck. So anyone with a good story and has an ability to tell that shit in a good way, they're gonna be able to create an audience. So that logic shit that you guys be talking about, that's not what people want to care. People don't care about data. They don't care about logic. They don't care about historical facts. They care about who is going to feed their ability to escape from their boring, pathetic lives. That's what people want. And I hate to say it, but I'm telling you, I'm not bullshitting you. People want that, bro. They have like a addiction to escaping their reality. So Sammy the Bull,
Correct.
You can't compete with Sammy the Bull, bro. You can't compete with that shit.
Okay, let me show you a podcast that I subscribed to. As soon as he became, because I knew he was going to be a podcaster, the moment I seen his interview on like somebody else's shit. This guy right here, Larry Lawton. The guy was like, ex-jewel thief and shit for the fucking mafia and shit. As soon as I seen that this dude did an interview, I'm like, this dude is going to be a podcaster out this fucking world, man.
1.2 million subscribers.
That's what I'm saying, man. That shit happened in like a couple of months, man. For real.
Damn, bro. Like 1.2 million subscribers, man.
All these ex-mafia motherfuckers are getting paid off of this shit right now, man.
Okay, let's take an example from the black side. BMF boys. What happens when they get an early release under the new Joe Biden laws that they're going to pass in the next couple of years? So what if one of them who was in the BMF, because we already know Jeezy was in, but he didn't go to prison. But like, what about the guys that were really the deepest in it when they get out and they don't have to worry about, being reincarcerated or double jeopardy, and they get their podcast, the BMF boys back in the day podcast? Then what?
You could literally have these drill music motherfuckers just even getting out of the music game and just doing podcasts.
That's what's gonna, bro. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Dude, like the whole music industry is gonna flip on its head.
Yes.
People are gonna be releasing albums. They're just gonna be coming out with fucking podcasts and inviting big dudes on.
That'll be their marketing. Because again, you cut out so much. That's what's so beautiful about this technology. Like, you cut out all the middlemen, all the marketing, because the person that you're referring to, they want to release an album. They just have an upload on their podcast, do a live stream from like a nightclub or something with everyone there. And, the DJ playing his tracks, and you got all the marketing you could ever imagine. Because again, the beauty of the internet is that, think about it like this. You know how like people used to pay like a $10,000 a week to put up a billboard on the highway?
Yes.
Now, if you were a rapper and you wanted to promote your album, you might have paid that $10,000. Now, only a certain percentage of people will see that billboard, even though you're paying $10,000. With YouTube, zero money down, you can promote your album to 100,000, a million, 10 million people just with one of these open channels, bro. That is, I don't understand. People don't see how incredible that shit is, man. That's incredible because you cut out so much of the overhead and the expense. And I'm just saying that a lot of these regular brothers, they got to this thing before the guys that was in the mainstream. So while the regular dudes are trying to run to the mainstream dudes are trying to run to the grassroots social media.
Yeah, but here's another thing that people don't kind of understand. It's just that people are trying to get to the source of getting all the money in their own hands, however they fucking could. And it's like, this shit is going to keep collapsing down and down and down, where the tightest shit is going to be on websites. The tightest shit is not going to be on mainstream media. It's not even going to be on Hulu or Netflix or anything like that. It's going to be on these fucking websites.
Yes, it's going to be. Because again, you could look at someone like a Spike Lee. When Spike Lee did his first movie, Do the Right Thing, he paid for it on a credit card with like $20,000, right? Now, in today's age, Spike Lee, he don't got to put $20,000 on a credit card. All he needs is a couple of video editing software. All the cameras he used would cost him no more than $500 today. And he can do the same thing he did on 10% of the budget. See, because again, it's being proven by regular people that regular folks are mastering cameras, camcorder technology, video editing software, and they don't have any money. So when you got some of these Hollywood guys that it's not too hard for them to get a little bit of funding for whatever they're trying to do, this shit about to open up in a way that, like the Pacific Ocean, man. I don't know why people don't see it, but it's so clear to me.
Yeah, me too, because the people who are trying to be the top shit right now, like, dude, the biggest rapper in your city could just come, like Bone Thugs and Harmony podcast. Like, bro, like, you're not going to be able to compete with the washed up dudes with the goddamn stories, because people are here with stories. And once these, like, think of these dating coaches and all these lifestyle motherfuckers. Like, what happens when you get legit motherfucking business people come out here with none of that shit, come out here and just start talking to thousands of fucking people?
It's coming, bro.
God.
And it's coming. I'm telling you that right now. And it makes so much sense to me because, again, like, you got a lot of guys out there that was in the rap game that were just one-hit wonders that people just remember them from that one hit. And no one's seen them in like 15 years. And they're just going to do like a straight up Kwame Brown and just pop up like, hey, guys, I'm alive. And here's my story of walking with the devil. Because remember the dude that just died, Black Rob? Remember him?
Yeah.
He wrote a book and shit. And he was breaking down like a lot of the Satanism in the Hollywood, a lot of the stuff that he went through with Puffy, a lot of stuff that he saw. And he called the book Walking with the Devil. So what happens when someone with a very similar story that was big at one point comes out with their Walking with the Devil podcast? Because you know how brothers get into that conspiracy theorists and that. So these guys got the inside say, look, I went through such and such, and this is what happened to me, and this is how I ended up. And they can do a whole series. I mean, it's an endless thing. And I don't think that brothers understood how precious this space of regular black men telling their stories really has been. But they're going to, sometimes you don't really appreciate something until it's gone. And 2024 comes around and this whole space is gone. And they're just like mom and pop channels and shit. Whereas all these Hollywood washed up people have come in and dominated. Then they're going to be like, damn, I miss the days when regular brothers had a space. And they're going to, how everyone's always like, well, black men never had a space for 40 years. And it's, and they're going to be saying the same thing 5 years. And they're like, man, it'd be nice if regular brothers had a space.
Yes. I mean, could you imagine the Denzel Washington podcast?
Man, come on, bro.
Imagine that.
You already know how Denzel, I think he nailed Saying Nothing Lathan. And I always thought that she was a nice looking cougar bitch. But he was nailing like young bras like Eva Mendes, who I thought was hot. She was always hot. So you get a Denzel Washington, and he's like one of these 60-year-old boomer type dudes, you can't compete with the stories that he could tell. It's no way in hell. No, and he has a young son who's a millennial or a young Gen Xer that he can bring on to talk about things from that perspective. And it ain't no question about their credentials, because it ain't no fake it till they make it. It's I made it, and now I'm going to give you the formula how you can make it and the pitfalls to avoid. You can't compete with that formula, bro. Again, when I fell into this space, I just thought, damn, brothers are speaking from a barbershop perspective, everyday brothers.
That's what and that shit never works long term.
It doesn't. The money is
somebody who's more. Damn, he's fucking for real. Busy Bone do have a fucking channel. Fucking Jam TV. I had no idea. Thanks for letting me know that. Shit.
It's just so many, man. There's so many guys that we grew up listening to as kids, man, that we ain't heard from in like 5, 10, 15 years. And I'm telling you, they're about to find out about this technology and they're about to jump on it, man. Because it's too much money out here. It's so much. Because again, you know, you ever seen the movie Wall Street?
I would never watch that channel, but I would if she was like, you know, saying dress, expect her to dress. I would want to look, but I've seen her in a movie where she was dressed down, and I was disappointed.
There's gonna be a lot of stepfathers in this space. What's gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting some like Shallow and Hal shit, man, and that wasn't the body type that showed up, man. It wasn't.
Well, you remember that one movie from back in the day called Wall Street? You ever seen that with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen?
Yes. Yes.
Remember the scene? It was a very powerful dialogue between after Michael Douglas had betrayed Charlie Sheen, and he had said to him, he was like, "Hey, buddy, don't be angry. I taught you the game. Money is neither lost; it's only transfer." That's important because the big conversation now is how cable TV is losing money, and streaming is replacing cable TV the same way that Amazon replaced Sears and Kmart and all that shit. The same thing is happening right now behind the scenes. So the money is not being lost. That demand for unlimited entertainment is greater today than it's ever been. But the question of how is those dollars going to be allocated? Because the old model of paying $150 a month for like HBO or some shit like that or ESPN doesn't work.
That's crazy.
Nah, that doesn't work no more. So YouTube and has come along and like, hey, we're about to scoop up this audience. We have a freemium model. We only take 30%, and the audience pays you directly. There ain't no subscription. The audience, if they like you, they pay you directly. You dig? Ain't no contracts. So that's where we're at right now in 2021.
Correct. So look at this shit right here. Like, so you can go through all the bullshit of trying to get a channel on cable TV, or you can have your own channel on YouTube, where and a website, because it's I'm not going to go over that information, but it's easier to push people to a website to embedded videos than it is trying to get an actual audience on YouTube, by the way.
That's going to be the next thing. See, again, you remember how like Suge Knight, Jay Prince, and Puffy and those guys back in the day tried to do like a conglomerate distribution deal?
Yeah.
And they got stopped by the little hats in Hollywood and corporate America. Now, they don't have to worry about that. What happens if Jay Prince and them sit down again like, hey, we're going to create a platform because we own the masters of like 1,000 artists, and we're going to do a streaming service on a platform, and we're going to do podcasting and releasing of the greatest hits where you have to pay by a pay-per-view model to even listen to it, because, you know, Patreon is basically like pay-per-view, really, right?
It is.
So yeah. What happens when these big wigs that have the experience of doing the brick and mortar game, who have all the connections and networks and they have the money, they say, we're going to build a platform that can compete with YouTube, but YouTube can't get the ownership of our masters like we can, and we can bring on all kinds of people, and they have the reach, because a part of building a platform is that you got to have a large audience to build a platform that's going to get the kind of audience that can sustain it and pay you and give you enough incentive to continue doing it. And I think that that's what's going to be the next challenge, is that you're going to see a lot of these former washed out people that couldn't do it in the real world because of how many people you had to go through. They're going to say that now, I had that dream 20 years ago. I can build that platform today online at 10% of the cost.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, what people don't understand is that all these grifters who have come up, dude, you're going to easily be out. So, and like celebrities will put dudes on you to follow your ass around town if your ass is legitimate competition. And they will out motherfuckers like a motherfucker because that shit is actually a big ass market too for all these people who are here. So that's why I'm saying if you built a reputation around a specific set of bullshit and you ain't that type of person, when all these celebrities fucking get here, man, dude, they don't mind outing your ass in front of anybody.
No, they don't care. They got the experience with that, man. And it's gonna happen. I wish I was the person that had a platform and I knew all these people because I would just create like a R&B platform, like call it washed up R&B singers from the 80s, 90s, and 2000. I would just give all of these guys like their own space, just give me 20% and just let them do their thing. And I guarantee you they could dry out YouTube's audience of black people in 30 days.
Easily.
30 days, bro. It wouldn't take 30 days. The only reason that it hasn't dried out now is because there's no competing platform that has the right talent and the right backers. But once it happens, it won't take long because most black people, they come to YouTube, not because they care about YouTube, but because they like the talent that's on there.
And they want talent that's kind of closer to where they are in life, not motherfuckers who are too big to where they can't relate to.
Yeah, and that's why I like the everyday brothers and the regular guys. That's why to me it was so appealing because in my real life I've never seen, so many black men that are everyday guys talking about, the 9 areas of human activity with intelligence and with legitimate stories. And I think that's going to be something that 5 years from today we're going to wish that we had appreciated more because I don't think it's going to be there. I have a feeling because this happens in Black America a lot. It's always what could have been, what should have been. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the people that were there at the time when it was happening will tell you, yo, we tried to do such and such, but the majority was against us. And I think that's going to be the conversation in a couple of years is that you're going to have a lot of guys who have been around this space for the last 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, whatever. And they're going to be the only ones remaining that remember what happened between like 2008 and 2021. And like by 2025, they'll mostly all be forgotten, but they'll be able to tell the story about how there were regular black men that came to these spaces, trying to highlight, the 9 areas as regular men. But eventually the celebrities came in and that's what the audience wanted because ultimately the audience is the one that decides, no matter how you may feel about it as a content creator.
Yeah, correct. So think about this. We had a conversation there happening in the Manosphere. Then the dudes who try to take it in the entertainment direction. What happens when you have true entertainers come in and usurp them motherfuckers? Then now they're out. That's what I'm saying. It's like you want this shit to be mainstream. I'm like, dude, it's gonna become a time where all these motherfuckers gonna be obsolete. They're gonna have 100,000 channels, and then they're gonna have motherfuckers that are millions. And now you're gonna have the people who are 100,000 channels claiming that they're actual pioneers, being the dudes who are responding to million channel titles and shit, and they're gonna have to pay the motherfuckers to respond to it because they know how to set the contracts up and shit. Like dumb motherfuckers don't know how to do that.
I don't even know. Does the brother Cat Williams have a podcast yet?
Oh God, if Cat Williams would have one.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, what's gonna happen? Again, I don't think the regular brothers understand that they were ahead of the curve. Like the brothers that started this shit in 2008 or whenever, the brothers that came after them, the brothers that are here now, they don't understand that they were almost operating in the dark. Mainstream guys weren't. They looked at this shit as like, yo, that's losers that are on there. Now those guys are like, wait. Cat Williams' agent is like, dude, why you want to get a deal with VH1? Bro, just load up YouTube channel and do your thing. It's over. You ain't gonna be able to compete with no motherfucking Cat Williams, man. If you think that you're just an entertainer, he's the best. He's one of the best. And it's a lot of guys, like I said, that's in the game that are tired of Hollywood. They know the real deal behind the scene with mainstream and what you got to give up to be there. And they're going to look at the freedom that's offered by this technology, and they got a team around them already that's willing to, ride with them. They're like, look, let's set this shit up. Let's do an hour, 2 hours once a week, and we go bring in the audience. And it's over, man. But, thanks for having me on, MOT, man. It's getting late.
Yes,
this is a great conversation.
Last words before you get up out of here?
And I would just say that I hope brothers take heed to what's said tonight, because again, they will say to you today, "Oh, MOT and King Sigma was having like one of those tinfoil conversations," but then what'll happen? 2024 rolls around, and all these guys are gonna be like, "Damn, you remember those dudes? They used to come on in like 2019, 2020, 21. Where are they now?"
Oh shit! YouTube, where are they now?
YouTube.
Unsung heroes of YouTube.
It's gonna be like one of those YouTube "Where Are They Now" specials and shit, where they're gonna, because it's like, at that point, like I said, by the end of 2021, this shit'll be mainstream and people will know everyone's name, right? And it's gonna be like the celebrities are gonna come in 2022, but they're like 2024, 2025, like someone is gonna dig up all this old, podcasts and all this old footage that's out there now, that's in the internet, and they're gonna call that shit like YouTube. Where are they now? The original black men on YouTube and shit. And it's gonna be like. But with that, man, I'm out, man. Until next time, bro. Talk to you later, MOT.
All right, cool, man. Thanks for coming through, man. I want to thank King Sigma for coming through, and it just goes to show you, man, bro. Listen, this type of concept is going to be overtaken by people who got way more clout, views, subscribers, name, all that shit. And this is why you cannot do this thing through word of mouth shit, because anybody can blow up, anybody can be hot, anybody can do this shit. Yeah. And you're not going to be able to actually compete with people who got track records. You're not going to be able to compete with people who got actual celebrity. You're not going to be able to compete with that. So once you talk about mainstreaming some shit that anybody can do, anything that people can do is going to be the people who already has been out there already. And you know how these dudes are. You dude, like, name any woman from the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, the women having a podcast where they having these mundane ass conversations. Dude, everybody out of here. Everybody. So I want to thank everybody for coming through. If you're new, you came through here before, I want you to subscribe to the channel. And you guys have a really nice night. Peace.